It's strength in finding resilience beyond your circumstances. What is up, you guys? I'm Zakia Monet, and welcome to the Finding Your Way podcast, where we share stories of our hardships and share ways to not let our circumstances define us. Like you, we just here to find our way. What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Finding Her Way. My name is Zakia. I go by Zakia Monet on all social media platforms. And welcome to another episode. Episode 4. What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Are we doing a thing? Or are we doing a thing? Are we doing a thing? But anyway, this episode's journal prompt will be describe a moment when you were the happiest. It doesn't have to be present. Doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be present. It doesn't have to be anything so extensive. It could be something so simple. Somebody brought you flowers, or it made you the happiest girl. Something like that. It doesn't have to be, nothing crazy. That's just what I'm getting. So it don't have to be nothing crazy. But for me, outside of you saying your kids, because you can't say that, because we always, if you got a kid, one thing we're gonna do is make sure we got some kids. My kids, or my man. Besides that, describe a moment when you were the happiest. And for me, outside of my kids, that's a hard thing for me, because when were you really happy? Like, what was a moment when you were really at your happiest? You know what? I'm gonna say this. I can honestly say, outside of my kids, I haven't had my happiest moment yet, but I know it's coming. I know with all this work that I'm doing on myself, I know with some more groundwork that I have to do, I know it's coming. Like, I for sure know it's coming. I can't really pinpoint a moment where I was the happiest or when I was at my happiest. I honestly don't know. Or I can't pinpoint it. I may have been happy, but it probably wasn't my best moment. But I do know it's coming. I do know that. So, you can either think it to yourself, you can write it in the comments, or you can even journal it. Just describe your happiest moment, or when you were the happiest. That's the journal prompt for today. So in this episode, we're going to be discussing some red flags. And usually when we talk about red flags, we're speaking on men, we're speaking on people outside of ourselves. But this episode, we're me. What is my red flag? Or what are some of my red flags that I've noticed? Or what are some of your red flags? You can put them in the comments, or you just put them in the comments so we can discuss it. We got some things to talk about. So I think for me, one of my red flags I did discuss in the last episode was probably, well, I don't think I talked about this in the last episode, but it kind of goes hand in hand. I would say something that I've noticed sometimes with people or with my relationships. Like, I'm gonna keep bringing it up. Like the relationship. Damn, I can't talk. I told y'all this was gonna be a thing. But the relationship that I have with my best friend, I think that I'm now discovering that I lack boundaries. I lack boundaries. And I say that because, like I was saying in the last episode, you cannot pour your shit onto somebody else and expect them to carry you and them. Like, that's not fair at all. So I think I lack boundaries. Another red flag was that I don't have any boundaries. So I lack and I don't have. But that is something that I'm learning in therapy. And what my therapist had me do was describe or write each person's name that you what was it? Write each person's name that is in your life, but it doesn't have to be an extensive list. It's like your day-to-day people, you know, your core people. Write each of their names, and then write, like, I guess, a boundary that you would have in that relationship, or a boundary that you want, or a boundary that you expect in that relationship, you know? So she had me do that, and that was a great exercise for me. I'm still working on it, because I, like, people like to totter, like, and so, I ain't gonna say people, it's me. It's not you, it's me. It's me. I don't stand on my boundaries sometimes, and I can admit that. Like, I just don't stand on it all the time. So, but it was an article that I was reading. Where is it? And it helped me look at some of the things, look at some of my red flags. What was it? Okay. So I don't think this is the one, but I'm gonna take it. Another of my red flags. You get angry when someone corrects you. You get angry when someone corrects you. And that can be, like, for me, I think that's emotional. You know, that's more so emotional. Like when I was seeing in the last episode, like when my friend was telling me, you know, like some of the things that, like, she was experiencing with me was part of my abandonment issue, and that made me feel some type of way. That was like, I felt some type of way about her correcting me. So that's probably a big thing. You get angry or defensive. I was very defensive about that. What's another one? What's another red flag that I have? What's another red flag? Another big flag that this is kind of iffy for me, because I don't think I'm struggling with this as bad as I was, but low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is a big red flag, because like I was just saying in the last red flag, like, you could really, like, when you have a low self-esteem, you push a lot of your stuff onto a lot of other people. Like, just because you see yourself one way doesn't mean everybody sees you that way. And so, like, you kind of have an insecurity with that, and you kind of you're thinking like everybody just feels this way about you, when it's really you feeling that way about you. So that's probably one. Let's see. Codependency. And let's look up the definition of codependency. That's a red flag for me. The definition of codependency. What does that mean? Okay. So, to be codependent, it is characterized by excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction. An example of this: you go with her all the time because you're a little codependent. Or codependence would confuse caretaking and sacrifice with loyalty and love. Let me say it again. Codependence confuse caretaking and sacrifice with loyalty and love. I'm gonna read it one more time so I can get the understanding of it. Codependence confuse caretaking and sacrifice with loyalty and love. So what does a codependent person look like? The codependent person feels worthless unless they are needed by and making drastic sacrifices for the enabler. The enabler gets satisfaction from getting their every need met by the other person. The codependent is only happy when making extreme sacrifices for their partner. So what are the symptoms of codependency, you say? So 5 core symptoms of codependence is self-esteem and self-love, setting functional boundaries with other people and protecting oneself, owning one's own reality and identifying who one is, addressing one's adult needs and wants, manifesting in self-care difficulties, being moderate or contained. I feel like that's a lot of us. I feel like this is a lot of us. Yo, like, especially the ones who like have dealt with a lot of trauma. I feel like that is a lot of us. Like, especially women who have suffered from domestic violence. Like, you feel like you can save that person. You feel like that person is probably dependent on you, or you're dependent on them, and it could be for financial reasons, or for just to take up that abandonment issue feeling. Like, I feel like a lot of us struggle with that. Interesting. How do y'all feel about that? Like, let me know in the comments, like, what are we feeling about that? But hold on, I put the phone down. Let me go through some more of my red flags, because it was some more that I saw that I was just like, okay, this is a red flag. Because I want to talk about the red flags, and I want to talk like, how can we, now that we know these are red flags, and now that we see these are red flags for ourselves, like, what are we going to do to fix it? Or what can we do to fix it? Let's see. I think this was it. You only want the good stuff. Like, you only want the perks of being in love without the complexity of it or having to do the work. But I don't think that's my red flag. I think that might be, yeah, that ain't I ain't claiming that. That ain't my red flag. You're needy. This is the last one, because this thing is trying to call me out. You're needy. I do feel like I'm needy emotionally. I feel like I do sometimes feel like I need my emotions tended to. I do feel like I can't be needy. Or like, I do feel like I can't expect more than what a person can give in a relationship. I do feel that way. Wow. So where do we go from here? Like, where do we go from here? Because this is just like, girl, what you got going on? What do you have going on? But you know what? The good part is, like, we can you can recognize, like, you can recognize these things, but it's like, damn, was I really like that? Like, do you know how hard that could be for a person that has to sit on the other end and take those red flags that we just dished out? Like, being needy emotionally is enough itself. Like, you know how much space mentally for somebody else that has to take for them? That's draining. That is so draining. So, like, what are we gonna do to fix it now that we know these things? I need somebody up here. I need like a therapist, or like somebody who's like really knowledgeable about a lot of these things, or like, you know, or who studies human relationships or human traumas and stuff like that. I really need to talk to somebody up here, like, that can tell us about our shit, like, can tell us these things, because like, that is a lot. that is a lot. Like, that's a lot. So, like, what do we do? Like, what do you do to fix these things? Like, what are we gonna do? Now that we know that we have these red flags, now that we know that we're needy or we're we can have some type of codependence, but not codependency, but not in the way that I was just saying. But it can be in another way. But we can have some. I can have some type of codependency. You know. I feel like I do have that trait. Like, now that we know these things, like, what do you do with that information? Like, what do you do? I guess, like, you just continue to do the work on yourself. Like, now that you know these are your red flags, I guess you continue to do the work and work on yourself. Continue, like, for me, continue with therapy, talking to my therapist about these things. Speaking of, I have a session at 2 o'clock. But, like, you just, I guess, because this really, like, mind-blowing to me. That's really mind-blowing to me. But yeah, like I was saying, I guess you do the work. And what that work looks like is, like, I guess it's up to you what it looks like. What are you willing to do to fix those red flags? Like, how far are you willing to go to change those things about yourself? You know? Like, okay, like, we've discovered the fact that we've been through a lot and we're still harboring onto a lot of things. That's another red flag for me. I harbor on a lot of things, but I harbor on a lot of things, but I don't, how can I say this? I harbor on a lot of things. But for me, you know, a lot of people just, like, they tell the person, whoever did it, they tell them how they feel, or they, you know, treat them differently, or do those kind of things. Like, I harbor onto things, but I don't change how I deal with people. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I do harbor on to a lot of things. I just don't deal with it. But that's something that I'm working on. So, like, what does working on your red flags look for you? How can we fix that? Or how can we work towards at least, like, going a step further than recognizing our red flags? But I think we're doing good just by doing step 1, just by recognizing your red flags. Like, that says a lot about you. That says that you actually want to change and that you actually want to do the work. Cause, like, we don't let them other folks, and you know who I mean, whoever hurt you, whoever did anything to you, whoever made you feel some type of way, whoever brought you to a place where you feel like you gotta heal from, whoever brought you to that place, they can't have no more control over how we move on forward in life. So I feel like that has a lot to do with it too. Like, how I feel like the red flags that we now have is just a reaction or an effect of what happened, of the cause, you know? I honestly feel that way. So, like, we can't get them, like, they gotta go. Like, they gotta go. We can't give them too much more of that power. And I don't want to say power, but we can't give them that. They've done enough. They've done enough. Like, what's that quote? I've done enough for the ungrateful. I've done enough for the ungrateful. So it's just like that. They don't matter anymore. Work on you. What can we do to fix you or fix me? Like, what can I do to fix myself? And you're doing it. You're doing the work. Whether it's after we've taken accountability, after we've owned up to these, after we recognize that, the next step is doing the work. Whether it's talking to a therapist, whether it's talking to a friend, or sometimes, like, but even that's iffy. like talking to friends, because like I said, like they can have their own stuff going too. But if like asking your friend, are you comfortable, or do you have the mental capacity to handle this conversation? Because if not, you need to respect that boundary. Oh, therapy is working, because my therapist taught me that. Like asking a friend, like, do you have the emotional or the mental capacity to take on this conversation, or what I want to talk about, or my bad day, you know? Like, just ask them, like, just ask them that. I'm doing good. My therapist would be so proud of me. My therapist would be so proud of me. But yeah, like even doing that, or getting that, if you do want to get the shadow work journal, getting that, because I think that also helps you understand your red flags and understand why you are the way you are. So even getting that, or you know, just like, I don't know, it's a lot of things that you can do to start doing the work to recognize and understand and learn how to move on from your red flags, or learning what to do with those red flags and how to navigate them, and what can you do different, how can you move different, how can you, instead of acting this way, instead of this being a red flag, how can we turn that red flag into a green flag? Just think about it like that. How can I turn this red flag into a green flag? Like, we all just need to do some healing. We all got some healing to do. We all got some groundwork to do. Like, we just do, man. Like, it's just, we just got some work to do. We got a lot of work to do. So, as we wrap up this episode, my advice for finding her way would be to own your truth, accepting your truth, and recognize how can you, or what is the work that you need to do to fix what you don't like about yourself, or what you don't like about your truth. What don't you like about your red flags? What is the work that you need to do to fix your red flags? How can we improve ourselves so we can be the best mom, or the best wife, or the best husband, or the best sister, or the best friend? What is the red? Start from the most important red flag to the least important, and work your way down. That's what I would tell you. So that is all for this episode. I hope you guys loved it as much as I love talking with you guys about it. I hope you guys took at least one thing, if anything, from this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed and took at least one thing, if any, from this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share us with a friend you know. Follow us on Instagram at Finding Her Way Pod, and send us letters or questions to askfhw@gmail.com. We hope to hear from you in the next episode.